So here I was at 5:30 in the morning, just enjoying my life, watching some Justice League Unlimited with the boys, and then all of a sudden JPFGO just rudely interrupts my time over here by dropping a King Protea buff. Now, I already know that it's a buff to her skill 1, and I don't really know what they could possibly do with King Protea. She seems like one of those units that kind of feel like they're really hard to buff because she's already got a pretty well-defined role as one of those characters that just gets so tanky that they realistically just can't be downed by the enemy. And sure, you can use a little bit of interesting gameplay to, you know, decide whether or not you're going to like cash in on all those buffs, as it were, to get bigger damage, charge your battery, all that good stuff. But usually, I mean, if you're going into boss fights, you can kind of just get super big and beefy and then just not worry about ever going down. So I know it's a skill 1 buff. Let's just go ahead and start looking at this, and then I'll give you my, I guess, take on how good it is. And sorry about that. I thought this looked a little bit odd because I was like, this looks exactly like what she already has. This doesn't look different at all. And that is because this is not the buff. They actually decided to buff the skill again over here. As you can see, it was C+, and it is now going to be B rank. So this is the updated one. And I mean, it looks like it's just adding the buff removal resistance that is 100% that lasts for 1 times for the 10 turns. And then it also gives you the 30% battery. And I think most importantly, the cooldown goes down to 8 to 6 turns, which, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, that's kind of nutty, right? So like if you do potentially say, lose some of these buffs over here, because you do have the buff removal resistance, but some bosses are a little let's say persistent in trying to remove your buffs, and they will just keep trying time and time again to get your buffs off of you. So if you do lose that, you can just kind of fire this much quicker. I mean, you're essentially gaining 4 extra turns on this. Now again, you got to remember, this part is not stackable, so it's not like you can double stack the infinite growth over here. You can't get to like 160% NP resistance and you're not stacking 8k HP every single turn. You know, that would just be a little bit insane, right? They're not going to let you do something like that. But I mean, it's still nice that you're going to be able to have this a bit quicker. The only thing that I'm a little interested about, I mean, because I don't think just because this is listed below this one over here that you're going to be able to stack the max HP down there as well, because it should all just be under this banner. If I'm missing something, somebody can let me know in the comments down below, but it doesn't look like any of this is like, oh, well, you can get the max HP, because I don't think it would have been too broken if you could have gotten, you know, 8k max HP every single turn. Some bosses can just hit so hard that it doesn't really matter. I think it really is just becoming blatantly immune to NPs. Stacking 16% NP damage resistance would have been absolutely bonkers for a servant like this. I mean, you got to understand that over the course of just a few turns, you're eventually just going to be flat out immune to NP damage, which is most of the like high damage you're getting from bosses is whenever they fire their NP. That's when you're always saving your invulns, your dodges, all that good stuff. But it doesn't look like it's going to be stackable. But the fact that, again, it's going down to a 6-turn cooldown, I think is still very strong. Because, again, like you can lose out on your buffs, or I mean, well, they're not going to expire. They wouldn't normally expire over the course turn. I guess that really is just for something like that, with it being unstackable. But in my usage of King Protea, yeah, that always has found to be the most annoying thing when using her, is that, you know, I'm going up into a boss, I'm like super built up, I've got like 50% NP damage resistance, I've got like 60-70k HP, and then they yeet that off of me, and it is really annoying because that is kind of her main thing. Not just for making her really bulky, but you can cash in on it for these other skills over here, you know, whether that is just instantly getting ready to fire your NP, or that is, I think, yeah, it's over here, or just being able to do bigger damage on her own NP if you have the growth stack over there. That's like really, really nice to have. So it's important that you always kind of have these going around, not just for making her bulky, but for also, you know, kind of making her NP a little bit more consistent, and also, you know, being able to give her extra damage. But I mean, not the most broken thing, but it is very nice. I think this is the most important part right here, right? Because none of these increase. Like, these are all still 10 turns, 10 stacks. It's still 4k HP. It's still 8% NP every single turn. You know, I guess though, well, I mean, technically it was already always going to be online because, you know, 10 turns, 10, you know, cooldown. But I guess it's more guaranteed to always be online. It's just a nice solid buff for her. I think, again, the most important thing is getting this buff removal resistance over here. Just having essentially like a focus sash for your stacks over here, it's just going to be very nice that you have some insulation to make sure that like the boss is not just going to absolutely bend you over the counter and remove all of your stacks and whatnot. I maybe would have liked to see something over here that could have been stackable though, like maybe they added on like an attack buff or something along those lines. You know, it could be like seen as maybe a little too good from some people, but you gotta remember she's also like pretty exclusively a CQ oriented servant, and I mean it's not unprecedented that some of these Sakura 5 members can do that. I mean, look at the summer version of Meld, she can loop her not her attack buff but her arts buff, you know, so giving King Protea something along those lines, and it's not like it would be immediately stackable, right? It's a 6-turn cooldown, you gotta wait, you know, 6 turns and you would have that up for 4 turns. But I have the damage chart pulled up over here just because King Protea, I think, could have benefited just a little bit from getting some of that extra damage. Like, sure, her numbers can get very nice, but, you know, PvE game, I don't mind if we're doing a little bit of broken damage, especially against bosses pretty specifically. You're not really going to be using KP over here against, you know, like farming nodes or anything. I don't think it would have put anybody out of a job, you know, if you would have just, like, I don't know, given her like a 10% attack buff, you know, even something like that simple, I think would have been really nice, because then it actually kind of gives more of a merit of just, you know, in decreasing the skill cooldown, which is just kind of a convenience thing, but then also giving her the resistance. I think it gives her that nice edge in being able to stack her skills, right? Because I always like it when servants have like some interesting, neat thing like that. But then again, I guess you could argue that King Protea's already got enough interesting, neat things going on for her, with her being like pretty much the one juggernaut servant that's just going to become immune to absolutely everything as the fight goes on. So I don't know, you can let me know in the comments down below, because this also could be me speaking from a little bit of ignorance, because while I do use King Protea every now and then, it really is every now and then. Like, it's not like my first servant to really break out when going into a solo fight. But then again, if I am, well, I mean, I'm already that wrong. I don't really do solo fights that often, but when I do, King Protea is one of the ones that I like to bring, depending on the fight composition, because again, before her getting this buff over here, if I know the boss is going to be removing her buffs, I might not bring her, because that can be rather annoying and getting your stuff yeeted. So I don't know, maybe I'll go ahead and test her out over on JP. Maybe I'll do some runs on stream on like Wednesday or Friday. I'm sure we're bound to also get new bosses for Ordeal Call 3. What is it, the 28th? I think 28th I think is when we get the next chapter. So, you know, maybe bring her to some of those boss fights. We'll see how they do. Assuming I'm allowed to bring friend supports and everything, because I don't know, they've been clogging up my team comp with Bartholomew's and Mashes and everything. So, you know, Lord willing that I'm allowed to actually bring some friends, you know, I'll go ahead and I'll try her out, and maybe you'll see some of those videos coming out in the next like week or two. But with all that being said, you know, leave me your thoughts in the comments down below. Real King Protea heads, the people that are really using her for every single boss fight, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below as well, because I'd like to get the thoughts and opinions on more people as well that use her more than I do, right? Like, I have the base understanding, right? I've used her every now and then, but let me get the people that use her in like all those boss fights, right? Like, give me the expert opinion. Let's get some of that. So with all that being said, I'm gonna go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice one, and I'll catch y'all on the next video. Peace, late guys.